1948 to 2023, 75 years of racing at the Glen. It all started with one man car and a dream. Cameron Argetsinger was the man, and MGTD was the car. And the dream was to hold a European-style road race through the streets and roads around Watkins Glen. The obstacles Mr. Argetsinger faced were almost insurmountable, needing to get approval from local, state, county officials to run the race, even having to stop the trains from running for a single day. The race had to be sanctioned, and obviously ultimately was, by the fledgling Sports Car Club of America. A person with less passion and drive would probably have thrown up their hands and walked away from the project. But Cameron was not cut from that cloth. And on October 2nd, 1948, the first post-World War II race in America took place through the small village streets of Watkins Glen, New York. It began with a curious crowd of spectators estimated at roughly 10,000 to watch two races, a Junior Prix of 4 laps and a Grand Prix of 8 laps in length around a 6.6-mile course of public roads that circled the state park. The start-finish line sat boldly in front of the county courthouse on Franklin Street. 23 cars ran in the Junior Prix and 15 cars competed in the Grand Prix. Both races were won by Frank Griswold driving a 1938 Alfa Romeo. The great American sportsman Briggs Cunningham finished second in each race. Argetsinger suffered a flat tire in the Junior Prix, but rebounded to finish ninth in the Grand Prix. And this is a shot of the start of the 1948 Grand Prix through the streets of Watkins Glen. Here we see Frank Griswold in the Alfa Romeo on the course. And here we see Mr. Argetsinger coming down into town. This was a very challenging circuit composed of paved roads, stone roads, dirt roads. In 1949, the race date was moved to mid-September and remained there during the street years era. Two races were also held in 1949. The Junior Prix was renamed the Seneca Cup. It remained at 4 laps in length, but the Grand Prix was increased to 15 laps in length. Beginning in 1950 and through 1952, 3 races were held. Here's a shot from 1950. You see 2 Allards chasing the Bugatti, crossing or just about ready to cross the infamous Stone Bridge. This was at the far part of the course, one of the most picturesque and one of the most iconic parts of that original street course. Each year, the crowd increased dramatically. By 1951 and 1952, crowds were estimated in excess of 150,000 people. Racing through the streets was not without incident, of course. As this photo shows us, if you look closely, you see that bay of hay about ready to go through that plate glass window in the corner bar there on the corner. Yes, straw bales were pretty much the only thing separating the cars from the crowd. This is a shot from the start of the 1952 Grand Prix. The cars were obviously getting bigger and faster, and with the increased number of spectators, it was only a matter of time before something would happen. In 1952, the crowd brushed the crowd, and sadly, a young boy was killed and several other people were injured. The days of racing through town ended precisely with that incident. That race was never finished, and they never raced through town again. While the 1952 tragedy ended racing through town, it certainly did not end the enthusiasm that racing had generated in Watkins Glen. A circuit of roughly 4.5 miles using town roads outside the village itself was utilized in the years 1953 to 1955. Itself a very challenging circuit, one of the benefits was that it actually allowed the competitors a day of practice before the actual races, something that was never able to be accomplished when they were running through the streets of town. The street races were all one-day races. Show up, race, go home, same day. Here's a photo from the 1954 Queen Catherine Cup, held on, again, the second circuit of 4.5 miles. And here's a photo of one of the first Corvettes. This is from 1955 to race at the intermediate circuit. Realizing that a permanent circuit was really necessary to take racing to the next level, more professional level at Watkins Glen, several hundred acres of land were purchased and a permanent circuit was built in 1956. A teardrop shape, roughly 2.5 miles in length. The goal was to have the fastest road course in the country with lap speeds in excess of 100 miles an hour. Appropriately enough, as both NASCAR and Watkins Glen celebrated their 75th anniversaries last year, the first actual professional race, i.e. people got paid, was a NASCAR stock car race in 1957. NASCAR returned in 1964 and 1965 and returned permanently in 1986 and has become the biggest spectator event held annually at the track. This photo shows Buck Baker, who was the winner of that first race in 57 in the number 87, being chased by an upstate New York guy, Jim Reed, in the number 7. And here we see Jim Reed being chased by the eventual second place finisher, Fireball Roberts, in that 57 race. Almost as soon as the permanent circuit was in place, Cameron's goal became to bring the premier road racing series in the world, the Formula One Grand Prix circuit, to Watkins Glen. The series had run without much fanfare at Riverside and Sebring previously, did not attract many people, did not get hardly any attention at all through the media, but with the same tenacity that he used to bring racing to Watkins Glen in 1948, in 1961, the Formula One United States Grand Prix came to Watkins Glen, beginning a glorious 20-year history of Grand Prix racing here. This is what the circuit looked like in 61 for that first U.S. Grand Prix. Here was one of the masters of Grand Prix racing during that era, the great Sterling Moss. Interestingly enough, while Sterling Moss was considered arguably the greatest Grand Prix racer of his era, he never actually won a Grand Prix championship. He won numerous races, but he never actually was crowned world champion. This gives you an idea of the crowd that came in for that first Grand Prix race in 1961. This is coming south from Route 14. Hosting the Formula One circuit for 20 years put Watkins Glen on the world stage of motor racing. It became the event of the fall and was run under either lovely, warm Indian summer type weather, the leaves are turning, the breezes are blowing, or exactly the opposite, with rain and snow and mud and just horrendous conditions. It was 1979 when I brought my then fiance here for the race. She was horrified at the conditions, the bathrooms, everything, but fortunately, she still ended up marrying me, and we're still married to this day. Lucky me. Also during that 20-year period, in 1971 to be exact, the track length was increased to its current 3.377 miles. As the section known as the boot was added. Speed of the cars, again in the late 1960s, had increased to the point where the speed of the cars was starting to outstrip the capabilities of the track, and a longer circuit was needed. The boot added more than a mile to the overall length of the original circuit and was universally hailed by drivers as a challenging and very new dynamic to the course. Today, Formula One races in Austin, Texas, Miami, and in November of last year, they made their actually second appearance in Las Vegas. We all wish that Watkins Glen would host another Formula One Grand Prix. From an economic standpoint, that simply will never happen. So they can add as many races in the United States as they like, but the Glen is still and will always be the really rightful home of the United States Grand Prix. Let's take a look at a few more memories of the Formula One days. Here we've got the great Jimmy Clark. This is a photo from the 1962 Grand Prix here. So this is a Michael Argetsinger photo of the start of the 1964 race. This is a shot from the great winged era, which mercifully did not last very long in Formula One. When the wings detached from their struts, havoc ensued and there was potential driver injury and potentially death. So that was a very short-lived period in Formula One history. This is the great Jackie Stewart from 1969. Here's Mario on the pole from 1971. And really one of my favorite photos of all of these, this is the 1978 U.S. Grand Prix. You've got Mario Andretti in the JPS Lotus number 5, being followed by Carlos Reutemann and Gilles Villeneuve, both in the Ferraris. This was the year that Mario won the World Championship in 1978, driving the Lotus 79. I love this photo for a number of reasons, but not the least of which is just look at the spectators in the background. Everybody standing, everybody just almost on the edge of their seats. Great era. Unfortunately, it was coming to an end. So the last Formula One race was in 1980. Here we see Jacques Lafitte driving the Ligier. One thing to note here is the cigarette advertising on the side of the car with Gaetan. Ligier sounded great. We're not always the most competitive car, but they sure sounded terrific. And this was the last year in 1980. Sadly, the track had gotten into financial difficulties largely due to how they financed adding the boot in 1971. And the 20-year marriage ended. They had actually not been able to pay the purse for the 79 race, but they built up such good feelings among the Formula One community over the years that they gave them a one-year reprieve. And sadly, when they came back in 1980, the finances were not any better than they'd been the previous year. So Formula One walked away in 1980, sadly never to return. But from the first winner of the first race, Innes Ireland, in 1961, which ironically was the only Grand Prix win of his career, to the last winner, Alan Jones, in 1980, which was the culmination of his World Championship season. It was truly a magical 20-year run. But the Glen has paid host to many other great racing series and notable drivers over the years. Let's take a look at some of them here. This is the great Ken Miles from the 1963 USRRC driving the famous Cobra. Here we've got the 1965 Glen 500, Mark Donohue and Walt Hansken in Mustangs. Mark Donohue again driving the all-conquering Sunoco Camaro from 1968. The great Parnelli Jones capping off his championship winning season in 1970. Parnelli Jones, arguably one of the toughest, meanest guys ever to strap in behind a race car. And finally, one of the famous Ford GTs running in the 1968 6 Hours at the Glen. In my opinion, the greatest road racing series ever held was the original Can-Am, or the Canadian American Challenge Cup Series, which ran from the late 1960s to the early 1970s. Few rules, big horsepower, interesting drivers, great tracks, constantly changing ideas regarding aerodynamics. And again, remember, this was before the era of the computer-designed car. Big name drivers, the series really had it all. This is my favorite Can-Am car of all time. This is from 1969. This is the McLaren M8B. As opposed to the Formula One winged era, I loved the Can-Am winged era. The McLarens were all conquering, all powerful in the early days of the Can-Am series. And they were smart enough when they sold cars, they never sold current year car, they sold the second year car or the preceding year car to their competitors. So they always were on top. This is the infamous Chaparral vacuum cleaner car, which debuted here at the Glen in 1970. Again, you see the box-like structure in the back, the skirts which hang down to the thing. There was a vacuum, literally a vacuum cleaner in the back of the car to suck the car down to the track. Great in concept. It worked. The car was very fast. The problem was if you got behind the car and the car went off course, it kicked up all the stones and rocks and debris into the visor of the car that was following it. So it had a very short-lived run. I don't even think it made it through the entire season. I think it was banned after only a few races. But again, that's how technology was, and Chaparral was at the forefront of that technology during that era. Here we've got the two McLarens. This is also 1970. The two McLarens leading the Chaparral, coming up through the S's. And this is the car that killed the Can-Am. This is the all-powering 1,100 horsepower turbocharged Porsche, developed in part, obviously, by Porsche, raced by the Penske organization, two organizations at the top of their game. Once this car came out, the McLarens were obsolete. Almost everything was obsolete. This was the end of the series pretty much in 1972. Let's look at the IMSA years. Now, IMSA still races to this day, but the International Motorsports Association was founded by John Bishop, a former president of the Sports Car Club of America. It ran its first race at Pocono Raceway in 1969 and has been a dominant as an organization in sports car racing for 50 plus years. This is a shot from the 1984 Camel Continental with the Mustang GTP racing against the March Chevrolet. Here we've got the all-conquering Lowenbrow Porsche 962 driven by Al Holbert. Probably one of my favorite race cars of all time, and all dominant during that period of time. We've got the 1994 Ferrari 333 SP at speed in the rain. Just a great photo. Ferrari sounded like nothing else. The IMSA organization was always known for a large number of different cars. Even today, that remains true. They're on a roll. They have their hypercars and 3 or 4 other series. IMSA is a very strong organization in sports car racing. Here's something that you wouldn't have thought would have raced here. These are midgets. The midgets race here actually on more than one occasion. Now, midgets we commonly think are on a dirt track or a paved oval. Don't midgets only turn left? Well, not when racing at Watkins Glen. Well, this is a photo from 1963 race. Specifically for midgets, it's interesting to note that 6 Offie midgets competed in the 1959 International Formula Libre race against a field that included Jaguars, Maseratis, and Lotuses. That race was won by a Cooper Climax Formula car, but an Offie midget actually ended up finishing second. Another car that we normally associate with short track racing and only turning left, and one of my favorite types of cars, is the asphalt modified. So I grew up watching asphalt modifieds at Shangri-La Speedway in Owego, New York. Mods also are traditionally just associated with circle tracks turning left. Modified tour races have run here, I believe, on at least 4 different occasions. Very exciting. They're a little bit out of their element here, but they put on a great show. The fans enjoy seeing them, if only for the novelty of it. NASCAR, I told you that NASCAR returned back in 1986, has been here ever since. This is Tony Stewart driving the Home Depot car. Stewart has 5 wins at Watkins Glen during a period of time from 2002 to 2009. Actually, he has the most wins currently of any NASCAR driver that's competed on the circuit. And IndyCar has competed here on 3 different occasions. This is a shot of Elio Castroneves from 2017. We all know Elio Castroneves because he was champion of Dancing with the Stars, but you may also know him as one of the few 4-time winners of the Indy 500. IndyCar's first competed here from 1979 to 1981. then 2005 to 2010, and most recently 2016 and 17, kind of as a replacement for the ill-fated Boston street racing circuit that never took place. Now, while Indy cars put on a spectacular show here, they're wicked fast. Unfortunately, they always got weekends that were not good fan weekends. The original contract in 2016 was supposed to be for 3 years, but both sides mutually agreed to end it after the 2017 race. We'd love to have them back. Everybody from IndyCar loved coming here. The problem now is simply trying to find a hole in their schedule where they could run. The weekend that was traditionally the Watkins Glen weekend is now Portland, Oregon race. This is another one of my favorite series. This is a Formula 5000 car. This is, again, is the great Mario Andretti. Can never throw in too many Mario Andretti slides, but Formula 5000 followed the original Can-Am series. Again, it was small block Chevy V8 motors, spectacular racing, Mario Andretti, Brian Redman, all kinds of great drivers. It was just a spectacular series. It was actually sanctioned originally by USAC, and USAC didn't really do it any great favors in terms of publicizing it and everything, but it was a tremendous series while it lasted. And then finally, we come to 2023, and this is another look at an IMSA field. As I said originally, IMSA is on a roll, both from the standpoint of number of different car manufacturers that are entering these days, number of different classes of cars that are running in their races. Here we see the hypercars like Porsche and the Acuras out in front, followed by a myriad of different cars behind. The big IMSA race here is always the Salins 6-hour race, which takes place in late June. So from our original start through the streets of Watkins Glen in 1948 to the current 2024, racing has gone on uninterrupted. Racing just keeps getting bigger. It's pretty cool to think that what started on the streets of a small village in upstate New York way back in 1948 continues today at a state-of-the-art course up on the hill, but everything that led to that state-of-the-art course on the top of the hill began down through the streets of Watkins Glen. So there you have a very quick 75-year racing history of Watkins Glen. Thanks for listening.